Second reading is the Seven Principles. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, respect for the interdependent web of all existence, which we are a part.
You heard in our second reading the words of the covenant that used to bind our congregations together. I hope you noted the language. We, the member congregations, covenant to affirm and promote. Our shared commitment, the one we made to each other and to the world. But I slipped up there. I said to each other. And it was never a covenant between us as individuals, not a covenant that individuals were party to. We were free to embrace it, free to embrace those words, and most of us did because they spoke to us. But they were promises that beacon as a congregation, as an institution made to all the other congregations that are Unitarian Universalist, and that they made to Beacon. Beacon has its own covenant, which we recited, remember, back at the beginning of the service? Those are the promises that you make to each other here and to the world as Beacon Unitarian Universalist congregation. But we, collectively and democratically, chose to change the Unitarian Universalist Association's covenant. It was a long, complicated democratic process with lots and lots and lots of input, because we like that kind of thing. And what the commission came up with, which we overwhelmingly adopted, over 86% of the delegates voted for it, retired that beloved covenant. We still value it. We still refer to it. It's our history and we love it. I grew up with it as it changed and evolved, and the things that it says are deeply meaningful to most of us still. But we grew, we changed. We held on to each other. We kept the faith with each other. And now we have a dramatically different covenant between our congregations. Or so it seems. Instead of all those words, which most of us, even ministers, couldn't completely remember all the time, what was the fifth one? We have 6 words, 6 values, which we assert are rooted in love. And almost anyone who hears them 2 or 3 times can remember them all. Justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity, always rooted in love. So I said that this seems dramatically different, but I think that's not accurate. I know a minister, not a Unitarian Universalist, who is serving one of our congregations here in Arizona. It's always complex, isn't it? She has known us for a long time, teaching OWL our whole lives with us. And when I talked to her about the changes in our covenant, she laughed with me and agreed with me that it really isn't that different. We UUs are actually pretty consistent. So what changed and why? And if it didn't make such a huge change, why did we bother? What we did was we boiled it down. It's not all those words. It's 6 words. And there are lots of words to help explain them later, but it's 6 words rooted in love, and you can remember that. I can remember that. Our kids can learn it in a single lesson and carry it away without giving it to them as a children's version. Any of us can remember it. And second, if you listened to that reading about the covenant the way it used to be, you did not hear the word love. Now we affirm that it's at the center. I think it was before, but making it explicit is important. And it is the core thing. That word that a professional who surveyed us a couple of decades ago heard most often when Unitarian Universalists tried to explain their faith and what lay at its heart for them. Third, when you read the framing language of that old covenant, it talks about affirming and promoting. And 60-some years of experience taught us that affirming and promoting is weak tea. Unitarian Universalists who are people of color let us know that affirming and promoting had not achieved the inherent worth and dignity of every person in any meaningful way in the larger society, and even worse, hadn't done much of it in our congregations. Affirming can be, just words. And it's the actions that really matter. And they called for us to incorporate an 8th principle, which asserted a commitment to action and to working to undo racism and sexism and homophobia and all of the other isms. And somehow that was contentious. But congregation by congregation, over the past several years, we have been making that commitment. Beacon did 2 years ago. But in the meantime, the association's bylaw mandated review of the covenant was happening, and the content of that 8th principle was absorbed into the new 6 values scheme. Here's how it sounds now with the framing language. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are, and then the 6 values, and love are shown in graphic form in those bylaws. There is no official graphic, and there is no official order to those values. None of them is first or last. Here's one version. We can put it up on the wall if we want. Or we can make up our own graphic. There's nothing official. We get to choose. Note what the framing language asserts. We as congregations promise to assist and support each other. It affirms our commitments to reason, hope, and courage, and roots them in love, which we affirm is at the center, and that we are accountable to each other for doing the work of living out these values. And that's a deeper commitment than promising to affirm and promote them. We are promising to do the work and agreeing to be accountable to each other about that. That made some people nervous, afraid about accountability. I noticed, no bashing here, I noticed that most of the people who were uncomfortable about being accountable looked like me, older white men. I mean, made some people nervous, afraid about accountability, but we all want accountability, don't we? You want accountability from your banker, your lawyer, your doctor. We all want accountability. Just look at the nation right now. Wouldn't we all like a lot of accountability about what they're doing? Accountability is what keeps us in healthy relationship with each other. Without it, people just go off and do whatever the hell they please. And if you don't like it, that's too damn bad. Now, there's an American attitude. It's not a you attitude. As a minister, I am accountable to all of my colleagues in covenant, and they are to me. And that's a good thing. And as your minister, I'm accountable to you. And you want it to be that way for good reason. So putting that into the association's covenant doesn't mean that there's a police force that will be checking on us. It means we want and commit to a healthy relationship where we are all accountable to each other for our words and our deeds. And because of what that says, we are accountable for doing the very real work of living out those values. We committed to justice, to embodying it here in our congregational life, and to help the larger society be more just. And Beacon is actively doing that. Ask the people on the Social Justice Committee. That was 20% of the congregation's membership, Roz. It's a lot of people who are actively participating in organizing and doing the work. And I know more of you show up for it. We are committed to equity. And that one's a little more subtle because it's not just about what's equal or fair. It's both of those things, but also with attention to the reality that we do not all need the same things. As an example, while you or I may not have any hearing issues yet, there are people who do. And more than a few of them are already present here in the congregation. To make sure that we are all equitably included, we use a microphone. Because really, even if your voice is loud enough, like mine, and clear enough, and you believe, I don't need a mic, there are people who cannot hear you, not well, not clearly, without it. You may not need it, but they need you to use it. And the folks who are on Zoom, quite literally, will not hear you if you don't use the mic. One example. There are a lot. We have promised to actively work for equity, which requires us to think about what that means and for whom something is needed that we don't need. That's tough work. It requires people to speak up, to let us know that they need something that maybe isn't obvious to us. And for all of us to keep doing the work of becoming more equitable. Transformation. This is a promise to keep changing, to be the caterpillar becoming the butterfly, to keep growing. We commit to our own ongoing spiritual development, which often means change, and we commit to supporting each other's spiritual development. And it means being open to other kinds of change as well. Maybe we will come up with a radically different and better system of governance for the congregation. This is a promise to at least seriously consider even that kind of transformation. Pluralism echoes our deep commitment to embracing diversity in as many ways as possible. All ethnicities, all cultures, all identities, as well as being open to the widest diversity of religious and philosophical belief or commitment. That is a bigger challenge than most people recognize. Interdependence acknowledges that we are all of us, dependent on each other, and that we are likewise dependent on and part of the web of all existence. We celebrate that, and we work to see that all people and all beings thrive. Here I would point to Beacon's commitment to supporting people who are hungry or unhoused as one piece of that larger commitment, and there is so much more work that we might do. We recognize that their well-being and our own are inextricably bound up together. And all of these rooted in love, by which we mean that whichever of those values you may be operating from on any given topic, if you are not doing it out of love, you're doing it wrong. So why is all this important here? Our faith is covenantal, meaning that what binds us together are these promises, the ones that we make to each other in Beacon's covenant, and the ones that the association's covenant tying our congregations together. If you don't take them seriously, then what is your Unitarian Universalism really about? You show up on Sunday, and it's not because you believe the same things. So right now, a question before your board is whether to propose to you changing the bylaws of the congregation. Right now, they include those 7 principles. Lovely, great principles. And Beacon voted to add the 8th, so there are 8 principles. And there is, as yet, no reference to the current covenant of the association, those values. Are we committed to that? If so, should that be referenced in the bylaws instead? Or should we keep things as they are? Or should Beacon's bylaws center Beacon's covenant and simply reference the association's covenant and our commitment to it as a member congregation of the association? Y'all got choices. Now, is this just chasing words on paper? I mean, who cares? It's the bylaws. I'll just tell you that, first of all, bylaws are incredibly important. And second, if any covenant has any meaning, it's because you take it seriously and you live into those promises. When you have a covenant that you live by and live into, it changes you. An example. The church I served in New Hampshire took me seriously about the importance of covenant and drew up the first covenant that they had had in over 50 years. It was a good covenant, short, easy to remember, clear about what they were promising and aspiring to be together. A few years later, the question came up about whether they should be part of the sanctuary movement, providing a safer place for a refugee to be, someone who ICE might come after. I had hoped that they would agree to be part of that movement to support a congregation that had suitable space to house someone, because it's a team project doing that. But when they discussed this at a special congregational meeting, we love those, don't we? Someone referred back to their covenant and pointed to the words and commitments it held up and asked, if this is our covenant and we mean those words, then shouldn't we be a congregation that goes all in and offers a physical sanctuary? I was a little taken aback, delighted. And then they voted, and that's what they chose to do, by a pretty wide margin, too. They had to do significant renovations because there wasn't any place to bathe or shower in that century-old building. It wasn't a cheap commitment. My point is that when they came to a serious challenge, a question about who they were and what they were going to do, facing that, they referred to their covenant and said, we promised ourselves and each other that we were and were going to become this kind of people. And when the challenge came, the words guided them, and they took that leap of faith. The words matter. Our commitments matter. Our promises are important. Our covenants will guide us towards becoming the people we dream of being if we make them and keep them. When you join a Unitarian Universalist congregation, you join the community. You become a part of it. You sign the book. You promise to help fund it as you can. But what you're really joining is that covenant. You're committing to it. And we, all of us, including you, can choose to change it, to transform it. Beacon did that in June. You voted to change the word that had been there for decades. You voted to change the word church to congregation because it meant something. It meant choosing to be intentionally open and welcoming to people who, for any number of real reasons, may find the word church worrying or problematic or triggering. You changed, and you opened the door wider to pluralism. We heard some words earlier from James Baldwin. For nothing is fixed forever, forever, forever. It is not fixed. The earth is always shifting. The light is always changing. The sea does not cease to grind down rock. Generations do not cease to be born, and we are responsible to them because we are the only witnesses they have. We change. We evolve. We improve, we hope. We make promises, and we agree to remake those promises when we can improve them with better words or deeper commitments. And we will keep doing this, probably forever, grinding down the rock. May it be so.